Ready? It's 9:30 on the Weeast Coast. Weeast Coast?
Weeast
I didn't
Coast.
even get. I didn't even get. And it wasn't even the right coast either. I combined West and East
Weeast.
and
That's really cool though. I like
Weeast
it.
Coast. Yeah. Are we gonna invent a
So
new?
yeah, we transcend time,
Yeah. I mean, I don't even
time
know what day of
zones.
the week it is anymore. Maybe it's Moose Day, or Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 on the Weeast Coast on a Moose Day. It must be time for your Calamity Jane live stream. James, how are you on this Moose Day evening?
I gotta say, on all parallel time zones that I could possibly exist in, I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing fine. I could probably speak on behalf of all my other alternate multiple
Within the
parallel,
multiverse,
yeah,
yeah,
within the
yeah.
multiverse. I think I'm all right.
That's
I can't
good.
anticipate anything going on. So
That's good.
yeah,
That's good.
yeah. How about you?
I am status quo, so it could be worse.
Yeah.
Status
Okay.
quo sometimes is just what the doctor ordered. So that's where I'm at.
Your opening today kind of reminded me, and this is gonna go into stupid nerd game game
Oh,
stuff.
that's
But
because we've
yeah,
never done that before.
yeah,
We only talk
we never
about.
do that. But I guess
Oh
that's
no,
very
we only talk
character.
about very cerebral.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know how much you play StarCraft, the original StarCraft.
I mean, not as much
But
as you did, but yeah. I mean, I
yeah, well,
played it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, there's a character in there towards the latter tier as you play Protoss.
Mm-hmm.
And as you advance, you unlock the very final last advanced tier of units, and you
Mm-hmm.
get the Arbiter
Mm-hmm.
unit. And if you click on that character portrait a bunch of times, it'll tell you a bunch of stuff. And like all of a sudden, he starts time traveling. If you do it enough times,
Yeah.
you go blah 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 blah, and he'll actually shift in and out. He goes, "Do you believe? Do you believe in time travel?" And really, it's one of my favorite loopy character spotlights on a
Mm-hmm.
unit. But the Arbiter was really entertaining because he was traveling time within playing the game, and it's pretty funny. Anyways, it's kind of like a really long-winded way of saying that. That's what it reminded me of what we had tonight with the Weeast
I
Coast.
mean that's a deep cut that I think no one other than
No,
me is
no, no,
gonna
no.
have any context for at this point. But that's all right. I got
Yeah.
it, and I'm here to support that very 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 esoteric reference.
Oh man. I mean, just how OCD do you have to be to at least? And this is me. I would go through every unit and I would enjoy every single bit of voice snippets of each character just to hear what they had to say until you click past,
Oh yeah,
to
no,
get.
I did the same thing. They were hilarious. They
Yeah,
were
they're
really
hilarious.
funny. I mean,
Yeah.
who wouldn't want to do it? It's like one of the,
Uh,
you know, and they kept doing. I mean, I think even StarCraft two
yeah, they did it. Yeah, they
and
did.
Warcraft
Yeah.
three, I know had it, and
Uh huh. Yep.
Warcraft, or rather, StarCraft was the first RTS by Blizzard that I played. I had played, Lost Vikings and Rock and Roll
Hmm.
Racing and Blackthorn all
Hmm.
before that,
Yeah.
but StarCraft was the first RTS that I played that Blizzard worked on. Or first, I think no, I played Command and Conquer before StarCraft, but
Okay. Yeah.
um, so when you discover that Easter egg, it's just like, oh, this is a riot, and then it just keeps
Yeah.
going and going.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty funny back in the day when Blizzard was really, 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 really cool. And then I don't know what their opinion is now, but I don't find them as cool. Um, but
Well,
again, merging with the empire of Activision, and I guess it's inevitable, right?
and then they had that harassment scandal a couple of years ago. I knew a couple of
Yeah.
friends who used to work at Blizzard. They left because of it. So it must have been really bad.
Wow.
I mean, it was bad enough that they changed the name of one of the characters in Overwatch.
Wow.
Because,
Really?
yeah, the gunslinger guy was named after, I guess, one of the employees who was at the center of this scandal.
Hmm.
And he became so toxic that they actually renamed the character in game to just completely disassociate themselves from this guy. I mean, it was a big deal. I never really got the inside scoop, right?
Hmm.
Um, but I definitely did hear some rumblings, and it seems like a legitimately bad thing to have happen.
Yeah. I worked at Activision back in the early 2000s for a little bit as QA actually,
Mm-hmm.
but it was in that I'm not sure what it was like with the engineers and artists and stuff like that. Because again, I was doing QA stuff, but back then, like it was pretty much in the basement, and it was a bunch of just another bunch of other nerdy guys like myself. But it was fun, like, but it was definitely its own pro nerdy culture kind of thing. But as a result, because it was all 90% or 99% male, I never saw anything too crazy or offensive. But maybe I was just so busy just trying to write up bugs, I didn't really notice outside of my space and my little screen to notice too much. But I was just busy cracking a lot of jokes about games and stuff like that. That's all I recall. But
I
yeah,
worked,
but you got that.
yeah, I mean, I worked in the industry for 14 years, and I definitely saw it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
But less than you would think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I saw it, and I'm not going to speak to it because there are people who are still working in the industry, and this isn't the place to,
Yeah.
out people. But I encountered it with several people in the industry, and none of those people I respect or ever did respect, and I'm glad I
Mm-hmm.
don't work for them anymore.
Sure.
But I over the 14 years that I worked in the industry, I worked with hundreds and hundreds of people. And I can count on one hand the number of truly bad people, like truly sexist, misogynist people.
Mm.
But the thing is it doesn't take 100 bad people.
No,
It
no,
just
no.
takes
It's
one
like,
person that
yeah.
turns everything toxic, right?
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
so whether it's one
Especially
person or
somebody in, yeah, especially somebody in power.
absolutely, especially at one company I worked at, it was the person in power, and it just
Yeah. Jeez.
so it is. It is something that once you find it, once you see it happening, you've got to stamp it out. I mean, because it'll go toxic, it'll metastasize so fast.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then the hidden variable part of it is you just don't, because of the human condition, you just don't know how many people are really, some people are really adversely affected. They just won't say it because
Right.
they just might be shy or whatever. It's
Or
awful.
afraid of retribution, which is a
Yep.
thing that happens.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. All this conversation based on you saying Weeast Coast.
Weeast
Wow.
Coast. Well, that's what we
Yeah.
do on the Calamity Jane live stream. We make up words and then talk about sexism in the video game industry.
Well, let's
Yeah,
go
well,
to a
why don't we move on to
yeah.
that's for our other
Well,
podcast. That's not
yeah,
for
that's
our
for
video stream or
yeah,
whatever this thing is.
yeah, whatever this thing. Yeah, yeah. But we'll go to something lighter. Just gonna resume back to where we left off
All
last
right.
week,
Sounds good.
um, and work on Mitchell some more, and then we can still talk video games, or whatever, of course, as we always do. But
I mean,
yeah,
I don't
I'm
have a lot to say about games right now. I haven't played much in the last. I've been crazy busy. I got a part-time sort of night gig
hmm
on Fridays and Saturdays working at one of the local improv theaters in Atlanta.
hmm
And I've been spending a lot of time doing that. Like last week, in fact, I spent most of the week in the evenings at the theater. I had rehearsal on Wednesday. I teched a student showcase on Thursday. I worked a comedy show on Friday, and then I
Yeah,
worked
you're
the
pretty
main
busy.
show on Saturday. So it was a busy weekend for me, or a busy week for me. I mean, I love it. It's something that I'm glad I was able to get back into. I did it when I did improv in Seattle. I was on the tech team up there. I worked front of house. I performed on stage from time to time as well.
hmm
And I'm just happy to be back in that space. Improv brings me a lot of joy and solace and validation and all this other stuff. And I drifted away from it for a while in the last couple of years, not least of which because of the pandemic.
hmm
And it was pretty fortuitous that I rediscovered this place. The Village Theater was around before the pandemic, and I
hmm
actually was a cast member there for all of 2 weeks before the pandemic shut everything down.
Oh wow. Okay.
And they did a major reset during the course of the pandemic, and they reduced their staff by like 90% or more. And I had known that they had opened back up, but I hadn't been to one of their shows in a while. And then they started doing an improv jam, and I just happened to not have something to do on a Thursday night, and it just happened to see that they were doing a jam. So I was like, why not? So I go down and I do the jam, and the guy hosting the jam, who worked there at the time, happened to mention to one of the other performers that they were hiring for a tech person. And I went, well, hi, here is my credentials. Could I apply? And he said, yeah, sure. So he gave my information to the owner of the theater, and the owner of the theater called me, and I sent him my CV, and had a phone interview. And at the end of the phone interview, he's like, well, I got to be honest, you are really overqualified for this position.
Oh no.
But if you want to do it, we would love to have you. So
that worked out.
I said, yeah, absolutely. And so now I do tech down at the Village Theater in Atlanta. So if you are watching this and you live in the Atlanta area and you don't have anything to do on a Thursday or Friday, or rather a Friday or Saturday night, this month at least, I'm working 6 of the 8 shows. So
So do you actually do improv anymore yourself though?
I do. I wish I were. Yeah. I wish I were on stage more.
Yeah.
But when I'm free, there's a Wednesday night jam at a small indie theater called Dynamic El Dorado down here, and it's great. I'm good friends with the host of it, so it's good to see those familiar faces. And like I said, Village does a jam on Thursdays as well. So when I'm free and I don't have something else that's occupying my time, I always head down. And, but I haven't done it in front of like just a general audience. You know, I've done improv in Atlanta mostly in front of other improvisers. And I think, you know, at some point, if I'm with Village long enough, I will probably, I'm guessing, and this is speculation, but I think it's a reasonable speculation, that I'll wind up back on stage in one of the shows. But, you know, I'm just...
Do you miss it?
Oh, yeah. I miss being in front of regular audiences. They laugh a lot easier than improvisers. Improvisers know how the sausage is made, right? Yeah, I mean, they get it.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of sitting there analyzing you, going, oh, you missed an offer. Oh, you know, you could have been a little bit more specific there. Oh, you already named her Amanda. Why are you going back and renaming her Shelley? You know, and so they're watching it because they understand it, right? And so they're a lot harder to elicit a laugh from. But the regular audience, and why shouldn't they be more entertained by it? They don't understand the rules and the patterns and the tricks and the cheats and all the stuff that the performers do. And so there's an element of magic to improv to a general audience, you know. You know, and it's always fun. I mean, it's especially fun when you're in the booth. I mean, it's great when you're on stage and you elicit that kind of laughter, right? It's a really, really great feeling. But from an observational standpoint, it's really fascinating to be in the booth and watch how the audience responds to different things. It's a really kind of interesting human experience kind of thing.
Yeah, because you're getting I'm assuming you're up high, so you get a bird's eye view, literally, of everything, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you know, it's a really fun thing to be in the booth, and this Saturday was particularly exciting. I picked up a shift from one of the other tech guys who got double booked, and I'm like, well, this is one of the rare times where I actually don't have something to do on a Saturday night, so I said, yeah, sure, I'll pick up your shift. And I thought it was just going to be the regular Saturday night show. And then I get in there, and it turns out that the original founding members of the company were testing out. We're doing like a dry run on a new short form game format that they were working on. And I'm meeting the owner of the theater for the first time ever. And he's like, okay, cool. And he spends 2 minutes explaining to me how this game is going to work. And he's like, you think you could do it? And I'm like, we're going to find out. And so he was
did you have to pretty much on the fly?
Oh,
you had to pretty much on the fly just do kind of react to what was going on, right?
Oh, yeah, big time. I mean, you know, in improv tech is an improviser as well, right? Because, I mean, you don't, there's no cues. You don't set up any chases. There's no cue system. There's no cueing I'm forgetting terminology right now. Anyway, you just do it all on the fly, which
Yeah.
is why I love improv tech, because you really are kind of improvising with the performers on stage.
Yeah, you're like a shadow improviser pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
You're raising
Mm-hmm.
lights up and down, or you have to, yeah, whatever you have at your disposal up there in the
Mm-hmm.
booth.
So
Yeah.
it was super exciting, like just as variables changed, to be in the booth with the the owner and one of the founding members of this theater company,
Mm-hmm.
um, doing the game, and it went off well. I think the format is super fun. I hope they keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and all of the founding members of the company know who I am now because I did it. I pulled it off, right? Because, and
Mm-hmm.
this is, and this is something that you learn in improv is you just say yes, right? As much as humanly possible. If someone says, "Come and jump off this bridge with me," okay, I can see why you would hesitate to say yes, but generally speaking, in most situations in life, the only way you experience new things is by saying yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that you learn. It's one of the, I mean, it's one of the foundational tenets of improv that almost everybody knows. Yes, and right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's just sort of the instinct that you develop, and if you become like an improv nerd, like I have become over the years, that kind of stuff, it bleeds into your everyday life, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as a result, I tend to take that attitude with most aspects of my life anymore, and it's burned me. I mean, there's no question about it. But even in bad life experiences, there's still a story to tell.
Yeah.
Um, but in any case, so I said yes, and it went off great, and the show is over, and everybody's hanging out in the lobby, talking to the audience, hanging out, and the owner of the company like walks up to me, gives me this big hug, and says, "Get this man anything he wants to drink." It was great. Like,
And you proceeded to drink.
yeah, no, not too bad actually. I just stuck
Yeah,
to
yeah.
beer that night, but
Sure.
I was there talking till like 2 a.m. before things finally wore down, and yeah, it was a good time. It was a great night. It was a huge win for me, and my hope is that they remember me, and that that this has some sort of a positive effect.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so what is the next step? Are you just going back in like this weekend to just do more tech at all, or
Yeah,
no?
right now, I mean, it's not like it's not like all of a sudden I'm the golden child or anything. I
Yeah,
came
yeah, sure, sure.
through, in a clutch,
Yeah.
um, and I think I proved my value, and like anything, you prove yourself, and you keep pushing, and you don't get comfortable or overconfident. You don't rest on your laurels. So
Mhm.
I'm working the show tonight, or I mean rather Friday night and Saturday night, and then that'll be great. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Cool.
Anyway,
I'm glad it worked out well, in that regard. I mean, that
yeah,
part's great. Yeah. Hopefully, yeah, they do more of those. It was Improv Jeopardy, right? That's what you ended up
yeah,
doing.
yeah, yeah. So it was
Yeah.
super fun.
So I'm
Um,
int- I'm at a so I mean I hate to awkwardly break off of the rhythm of the talking improv, but
oh,
actually this is kind of fun.
I'd petered out. Like I had nothing left of the
Oh,
story.
okay.
So
I was sort of trying to play improv tech a little bit in my own booth in my head, going,
okay,
I think it's petering out. Now I'm going to try something else and raise the lights up while
all
Eric.
right, I'm ready.
So look at this. Check this
Mm-hmm.
out. So we have this pose, and then
Mm-hmm.
it goes to this pose, right? But
Mm-hmm.
let me turn off so you see the actual drawings. So he's here. I actually didn't put the mouth in here,
Mm-hmm.
but now I'm looking at it. It's kind of funny. Like I don't have the mouth in a lot of this. Look at this.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but he does have a mouth, but it changes things for me. Looking at it, because now that he has a mouth, it's different.
Yeah,
And it's this
it's
very minor thing, but yet it's caught my eye a little bit.
yeah, you're not wrong.
So I
It
mean,
that
look
that
at it
that's a
here.
very different vibe. The
Yeah,
squinty eyes without the mouth versus the squinty
yeah,
eyes with the mouth. It's a very
yeah,
different vibe.
yeah. It's kind of weird, huh? I
Yeah.
mean, Look at it. I'll play through a little bit of this just to kind of watch it,
Mm-hmm.
they are talking. But yeah, I don't have a mouth in him anywhere.
No.
It almost makes me wonder, like, did I subconsciously just take out the mouth because it was just too distracting? Because it was just actually, I'm almost wondering, like, we got to make an executive decision here, and maybe we just get rid of the mouth altogether. Like, he's just doesn't have a mouth. Weird, isn't
Hmm. Yeah, I'm of two minds here. I mean,
I know it's weird, right? Because way back when I first designed him, this is him, and he's got the man,
could you do me a favor?
so weird, man.
In either one of these poses, could you
Yeah,
take out the
sure,
mouth circle?
sure. Let's just do that right now. Of course, let's do it for both of them. Well, okay, we'll do it for one first, but there.
Yeah, leave the yeah. Let's look
Yeah,
at it this way for a second. Let's sit in
yeah,
let's sit
sure.
and stew in
Ruminate.
this. Yeah, everybody,
Yeah, ruminate.
ruminate with us.
it's so,
This
it's
is
so
this is
weird.
like how scintillating our stream gets, where we just sit in silence and look at character art for a while.
Yeah, but hang on, I'll
Um.
even do something better here. We'll bring
Okay.
this over here. We'll take out the dot for this one,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll do the same for this dude. Bring it over here, and I will paint in his thing over here.
Okay. All right. Well, I've made up my mind. I'm waiting. I'm gonna let you make up your mind, and then we'll go one, two,
Okay.
three, and we'll say it at the same time.
Okay. Hang on a second. I'm being very OCD about
Yeah.
this.
No.
I'm
No.
gonna
No.
put
Sure.
them
Make sure.
both
Yeah. Well,
framed
we
in
want to
here.
get like a good, true A/B comparison. So. All right. Well, I've made up my mind.
Ah,
Silence
I'm
is it's
still.
so good for these things. We should just sit. We should do an entire episode where we just sit in silence and
Oh,
look
I
at a
could
piece of
so.
art.
That throws me back to another nerdy thing, but I'll save that for some other time.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's too important, to think about. The clock's ticking. Oh my gosh, what are we
Mm-hmm.
gonna do?
No, I'm staring bullets
Um,
into you right now.
so you made up your mind, huh?
I've already made up my mind.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was easy once I saw everything sitting next to each other.
No mouth.
Okay, then we're in agreement.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
No mouth.
Okay, so tell me your reasoning. Why for you?
Um, without the mouth, he looks cooler. Honestly, the mouth he
Yeah.
looks sillier,
Mm-hmm.
and I know Mitchell's not a cool character by any stretch of the imagination, but we have to give him a little bit of something. And the bag with two eyes and no mouth, it gives him I mean, ultimately he is wearing a bag over his head, but it gives him a little bit more of an edge, which
Mm-hmm.
will be, I think, a good juxtaposition with how silly he is. He's just all silliness when he's got that circle mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and without it, it. I don't know. I just think it looks cooler without a mouth. I mean, it's completely subjective. There's no.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I'm just very curious because I wanted to get your perspective on how it felt to you. But so for me, the reason why I'm going no mouth, and this is more of a technical reason, is
Mm-hmm.
if I'm animating and I'm emoting, I'm gonna be fighting with that O mouth all the time because O
Mm-hmm.
is subliminally, and I'm not using any science here, but humans when they go the O mouth, like, oh, we're always
Right.
surprised, right?
Surprise. Yeah.
So if he's trying to emote something else with his eyes, then you're going to have two fights. His mouth always being
Juxtaposed.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway,
You
and
just
his
kept
O
wanting to
mouth
add
is,
more and more
oh my
syllables.
gosh, yeah, I know.
It just kept getting bigger.
Yeah, but and then if you leave it as an O mouth and he's emoting up here with his eyes, it's fighting with
Mm-hmm.
each other. There's a conflict. Now the other thing we could do is like you could actually make the mouth kind of do things and kind of do the emoting with everything together. then it becomes more like an emoji, and I don't know if I want to do that. And also, Calamity's got an emoji on her
on her hoodie. Yeah.
On her hoodie. So having just the eyes themselves is still a universal enough sign for humans to see just two eyes, and there's enough emotion that happens in the eyes anyway. So we can get by with it, and it's more abstract, and therefore a lot of people can identify with whatever he's trying to say. Because we push the abstraction to just enough to where it's still human enough to where we can still register. Oh, he's thinking this way, or he's thinking that way. We don't even need the mouth.
I think you're right. I mean, so you approach it from a technical aspect, and I just think he looks cooler without the mouth. So I think we're hitting it from both sides in this instance.
Really funny.
The sort of the unpolished, guttural sort of he just looks cooler side to the here's the technical reason why this is better side. So I think no mouth is the answer. Yep,
it definitely is. That's crazy though. That's why I was really excited to hear how your reasoning is much cooler than my reasoning. I'll give you that right off the bat. But, from purely just drawing and everything else. Well, I mean, just one less thing I have to worry about. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe it. It's funny how this whole time we've had this animatic for how for a while, and neither of us had ever caught that until tonight. It's really funny. Yeah, see, all this. Crazy.
I mean, yeah, and it works without the mouth. I mean, none of these shots strike me as being awkward looking.
No.
So.
Wow, we just made a major decision for Calamity Jane, for Mitchell.
Major character change.
Yeah, right on the fly. Crazy. But cool. All right.
Well, all right, there we go. There we go. That. Yeah. So delete that circle.
Yeah, that circle's out.
Boom.
Just like that.
And it makes your life easier from an animation standpoint.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, obviously, I think the bag should still, deform and sort of squash around.
Absolutely,
but...
yeah. That's all still on the table, yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even, like, just here, you change the shape of the bag, and that clearly reads happy, right? It doesn't. The mouth didn't actually add it. And in fact, is the mouth still there? Can you put the mouth back on that, or is it gone?
It's gone, but I can undo it. Hang on a second. Let me just put it back on. There we go.
That looks like he's singing.
Yeah. It's just.
And then you remove the mouth.
Yeah.
Right, and now he just looks happy.
Yeah.
It's again, and we've talked about this at length, so I don't want to belabor the point too much, but it's amazing what very, very simple things in a drawing can do to the way we interpret an expression on a character's face. Literally, the only thing that changed was you removed an ellipsoid. That's it.
Yep,
and
it's crazy.
My brain went from it looks like he's singing to it looks like he's happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's remarkable how such subtle things, and it goes to show the complexity and the subtlety of evolution, right? Because all of this, we do this automatically without thinking, and it's an evolutionary adaptation for the purposes of building communities, because human beings are communal creatures, right? And it's the same reason why eyebrows are so important. It's the same reason when you see someone without eyebrows, they look weird.
Yeah, and you can't put your finger on it until you actually have to analyze it.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's not to say if you want to go without eyebrows, go without eyebrows. I don't care. But
yeah.
But that is why when you look at someone initially without eyebrows, you go, what? Something looks wrong about them, because your brain uses other people's eyebrows to help you detect their emotional state and what their body language is saying in addition to what they're actually saying. So in any case, just I love those types of observations, and it's something that's really very apparent in animation, right?
Yeah.
Because you get it for free when you're dealing with human actors on a screen.
Yep. Yeah.
Because they're just doing it. They don't have to, and obviously if you're really bad at acting, then, you can look ridiculous, but or if you're really good with acting. I mean, Marlon Brando was renowned for his. I mean, and this sounds silly, but it's not his subtle use of eyebrows, his subtle intentional use of eyebrows, right? I mean, I remember being in film class and the teacher. Now, I mean, the movie is the history behind that movie is super unfortunate. But there's this one scene in Last Tango in Paris where he's being rejected, and he's just become heartbroken. He's just devastated, and literally the only thing that changes on his face is the way his eyebrows move.
Yeah.
And in that single moment, you get everything that you need from him. You know exactly what his character is feeling, right? The man was masterful at controlling his face, right? How he used his face, how he emoted, and so so I mean, it works on both ends. You have really crappy actors and you have really brilliant actors, but by and large, you get it for free. But in animation, everything has to be earned, right? The animator has to create those emotions, has to create those expressions. So
and then this is a little bit farther out than what there's the famous 9 Old Men, and they had their rules for animation, but it was all about abstracting reality, but giving it enough of an organic feel to where it was close enough to where we could forgive it as humans and appreciate it. But it still branches out into everything, like even with our conversation tonight, just like how do you abstract humans or put a human element into something, but still, keep it human, but you're also doing something completely weird and strange, but you just put enough humanity into it to kind of emote and connect with the audience, so.
Well, a book that, and I think we've also talked about it on the stream once upon a time, I don't remember when, but Scott McCloud's book, Understanding Comics.
Oh, it's a great book.
Amazing.
Love that book.
I mean, I've never learned so much, not just about comic books.
Yeah, he really took it apart. I don't know if we've ever talked about that. I didn't know that you actually read that.
Oh, I've read it like 4 times. I mean,
it's a great book.
Oh, it's amazing. And the whole thing is a comic book. And it's just...
Yeah, it's a genius book. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just really, I mean, I cannot say enough good things about it. Everybody I know who has any interest in filmmaking or comic books or just storytelling in general, right?
Yeah.
Understanding why the Uncanny Valley is the Uncanny Valley, even though he doesn't talk about the Uncanny Valley in the book, but when you hear it, if you've read Understanding Comics, you immediately understand it because he explains how iconography works, and the more detailed an image gets, the harder it is to maintain the human's ability to interpret it as a believable face.
Yep, right? Because we as humans, we're so wired to analyze every single thing. We can do so many calculations in 1 second of looking at somebody else, so the more you abstract it, the more forgiving we get as humans, right? With looking at it. That's why that Final Fantasy movie bombed, that very first one that was that was kind of close to being real and human, but not. And so it was just too unsettling. Within. Yeah, that one.
Is that it?
Yeah. Or why, like Beowulf, or...
Oh, God, and the Midnight Express.
Yeah,
Polar Express. Midnight Express is a different movie.
Yeah.
Woof.
But we're close enough. Yeah, but that one, there's something about them, they're just a little off-putting. Like, you can't really... You feel uncomfortable watching them a little bit.
Right.
And if you get to that creepy vibe.
Yeah, and if you've read Understanding Comics, you completely know why, right?
Yep.
It's just it's a transformative book. I mean, I recommend it to everybody. If you have any interest in storytelling in any medium, of any visual medium, it's critical. Like, it should just be mandatory reading for everybody.
That's crazy, man. I didn't know. Like I said, I didn't know that you read that book. It's really funny. Yeah, I have it someplace. I haven't dusted it off. I haven't read it in a long time. I should read it again. It's a great read too. It's really fast.
Yeah, it's really fast. I actually haven't read it in a couple of years, so I should probably go through it again too.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing book. It taught me so much, and it explained. One of my favorite things is it talks about, in movies there's motion blur, right? The 24 frames a second on film. The reason they settled on that, I'm using sort of the generic they. It was like a whole community of people experimenting with the technology, right? and it wasn't like someone did an actual. Anyway, whatever. I'm digressing. There was enough motion blur at 24 frames a second that your brain couldn't process the images as discrete images, and it was that motion blur that connected one frame to the next one, right? Mm-hmm. And it was originally it was partially an economics thing, right? Because you could go faster than that, mm-hmm. But then it would increase the amount of film that you had to use to capture what you wanted. 24 was kind of the lowest frame rate they mm-hmm. could get and have mm-hmm. movies still work, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so that motion blur is what's so critical to making movies work. And in understanding comics, Scott McCloud talks about how the gutters between the panels mm-hmm. are kind of the same thing, but it's a mental motion blur.
Yeah, right? And it gives you a mental pause too, because you can give it a little bit of a brief respite as you mm-hmm. digest and go to the next. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
it was at that point that I realized that the layout of panels on a page mm-hmm. are as much art as the art within the panels, right? Yep. There is an art to how you lay out panels, because the size of the panels, the order that you look at them, it's really, I mean, it really changed my entire perspective. And I still do love those big full page splash images because it's just mm-hmm. so much data. Sure. But there's no storytelling really going on.
No,
in those, right?
Yeah, they're just meant to do the one thing, which is an exclamation point.
Exactly, and they do them great. But then you kind of want to get back to the storytelling, right? And that's where the structure of the panels is so critical to making the story make sense.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I feel like everybody's read comic books where you get to a page and you can't figure out what the story is because the layout is so, opaque. It's so hard to interpret that there's no fun in reading it because you don't know what order you're supposed to read in, right?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but The Death of Superman, mm-hmm. This is a very unique book, if I recall, because it's The Death of Superman. You got to make it really special, so that every single page was a splash page, if I recall.
Oh, it's been too long. I don't remember.
Now I want to confirm that. And I'll be wrong next week. We'll confirm it next week. But it was such a slog to read that book, and I was so disappointed in. This is The Death of Superman, and this is the way they handle it. It's just mm-hmm. so.
It was the best intentions that just sort of went wrong because they weren't really thinking about the subtleties. I mean, and I think part of it is this language to a lot of these writers they're so fluent in it that mm-hmm. sometimes they don't analyze why what they're doing works, right?
Yeah, they may be oblivious and they just happen to have pure talent to just mm-hmm. to just go and do it, and they just they roll with it. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
But no, I honestly don't remember. I'll have to do a little research. You're just talking about the main. Was it Action Comics or Superman that they killed him off in? I don't remember anymore.
I think it might have been Action Comics. Yeah, where what's his name? Doomsday was mm-hmm. there and pounds him for pretty much pummel each other for 24 page, whatever the length of the book was, and it was all splash pages. I thought. I don't know. I'll have to look at it again, but it was kind of disappointing as a comic book. It's like,
The story was actually great, but mm-hmm. It was interesting after he died. I've never been a huge Superman character.
Yeah, same here.
For all those same reasons that everybody always belabors over and over again.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is opportunity to tell interesting stories with the character, but it always has to be sort of playing against the character. Because just playing Superman for Superman is boring because he's effectively immune to everything. Except for magic and kryptonite, right? And so telling just a regular superhero story with Superman is not great. But, books like Red Sun, which was just Grant Morrison did that one.
That's the one where he landed
in Russia. Yeah. It's a what if, or I think in DC it's Elseworlds. It's kind of an Elseworlds premise. Mm-hmm. Where he lands in Russia, and then some of the, and I know that they like Crisis on Infinite Earths with Marv Wolfman was tasked with sort of condensing all of the disparate DC universes into one
Yeah.
continuity, and that was sort of a
Yeah.
mess. But I mean, it was a fun read, but it didn't simplify anything. But some of the Earth 2 stuff,
Yeah.
like Huntress started as an Earth 2 character, and but anyway, I keep digressing. The death and life of Superman was such a great arc after he died, because all the stories dealt with the sort of the catastrophic void that Superman left in the world. A world that has become so complacent with this god effectively taking care of them. What happens when that god dies? What fills that vacuum, right?
Yeah. And that's when the four Supermen show up, right?
Yeah, that's when Superboy and the Eradicator and Steel and
it was. I remember during after Ground Zero of that happening.
The
it was
Cyborg
fun
Superman.
Yeah, Cyborg. Yeah, well, Terminator, Cyborg, whatever. At the time T2 was out. It's like, But it was fun though, because there was some mystery to like which one is the real Superman. There was all kinds of stuff like that. It was kind of fun for like a good year, reading and getting completely a different take on not a Superman title with no Superman in it. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah.
And some of the characters had legs. Like, I really loved Steel. I thought that was such a fun character. Yeah. I really, really enjoyed what they did with him. But yeah. Wow, that was super nerdy, man. We got really into the weeds on that one.
All because of Weeast Coast. It started with the Arbiter you started with your Weeast Coast. I went to Arbiter from StarCraft, and I think we're at a good spot where we'll wrap up with really weird Superman splash page talk and everything else.
If you say so. I mean, look.
I'm
James
busy,
James is declaring himself the moderator of our team. Well, I'm done. I don't know what you're gonna do, but I'm leaving.
I don't know what else I can do. I don't even I'm trying to draw. I'm like, this is it's
you're getting whimsical.
I'm in a good spot.
Yeah. You're getting wistful for you want to reread Understanding Comics and the Death of
I
Superman
do.
Again.
It's pretty funny. I think we're in a good spot for me to call it good for tonight.
All right.
I can keep going, but tonight though, I got weeds. I mean, it was.
Well, we made a major decision. I mean, this is an actual
that's
character change to Mitchell.
I need to kind of catch my breath a little bit, just to kind of catch my breath a little. Yeah, just catch my breath a little bit. But it was crazy what we coming across this weird design thing. But we got to kind of just work on a couple of poses here for Mitchell, and it'll keep going. One of next week, there's a couple more. This will be some right here where he's actually talking to Calamity for a little bit. These are some really fun poses that Jeff got. When he was doing the voice acting from, it's really fun to kind of draw to these two. So
well, I mean, if that's the case, I can talk to him and see if I can get him to commit to coming on the stream while you're working on those.
I know. Yeah, it'd be fun. It would be fun. So maybe we'll have him as a guest appearance, and he can do his Jeff.
Okay.
Just be Jeff as Jeff always does.
Do you want to see if we can get him for next week? Is that when you're going to start working on it?
Sure. I'll do it next week.
All right.
Where we're at right now. Let me show you. I'll be working on these kind of poses here, and if Jeff's with us, then I'll keep working on more poses. But look, like check out this. Like these are some fun stuff here. Yeah. And then he goes down. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff here I can work on for next week. So whenever he does show up, I'll kind of save this section for. Him hanging out with us and distracting me and
he's a master.
So that'll be cool.
All right, well, I think we're gonna call it there. A good, just under 45 minutes, so that's a decent, supersized length. It's actually kind of becoming our average length these days. But as always, you can check us out on Patreon. You can find our Patreon page at calamityjane.rocks. Also, obviously, we're on YouTube, which presumably is where you're watching this. We have a Facebook page where we post any updates to the show. Right now, we mostly use it just to post the links to the latest stream, but any sort of news or updates we'll post there. And then, of course, you can always head on over to Twitter, to Jane Salamander. We do a 3-tweet story most weeks. So we've missed a couple of weeks because of life has gotten in the way here and there, but Most weeks we do a 3-tweet story, and I think that's all the social media that we do at this point. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And a reminder, we do this live, so 9:30 on Mondays in the Weeast Coast.
I kind of hope it's a recurring theme. I don't know.
Weeast Coast. Well, yeah. So, anyway, 9:30's on the East Coast, 6:30's on the West Coast on Monday nights. Consider joining us. I have a live chat that I always keep open. I'm just always waiting for someone to type something. Anyway, have a good night, everybody. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Night.